we're going to be getting into the 9-centered way in human design. So we're going to be talking about how we develop these 9 centers. So we're going to start off with 5 centers to 7 and then to 9.
I can't wait to get through this 9-centered thing. I've been talking about it forever, right? We both have. So we moved into our 9-centered way. I want to describe what all that is. I have a feeling it's written on all the slides coming up, so I don't want to give away the plot line yet. But there's a huge movement. It means a great big deal of stuff. And we need to take the final chapter so far of this 9-centered way very seriously.
Perfect. Well, let's dive into it. We're going to be starting off in our journey of these 9 centers with the 5-centered Neanderthal hominid. They relied on instinctive splenic intelligence and keen senses to survive, being very animistic and deeply connected to the influences by the forces or the gods of nature. They lived in small family groups in harmony with solar and lunar cycles and appeared to have been peaceful and non-aggressive. And then the Cro-Magnon mutation took place over thousands of years, which set the stage for the evolution of modern man.
Yeah, so this movement, the Neanderthal was, I can't help but to think if I went back in time, they might be like, what are you? And they try and smell me and I smell funny. But other than that, I don't see the aggression in them because Neanderthal, 5-centered, all right. Their cognition was strictly all right. Now, there was still 2 crystals of consciousness, but their cognition was right. Everything, so all 4 arrows pointed to the right. That made them so open receptive, they were just little babes in the woods with great big muscles and big wide chests that allowed them to hold in heat and keep energy and be strong. So their violence was basically at a deer. That was the extent of their violence. I don't know if they fought amongst themselves. They probably did some just because of stupidness, but in their 5-centered way, the Neanderthal invented the bow. By the way, we found bows back in their time, and it was probably used for music or rhythm because we found no arrows. And then when we turned into our 7-centered form, the Cro-Magnon, much more intelligent, Ajna comes on board now. Before we were spleen looking at the use of Ajna. And in a 7-centered being, we were spleen and Ajna looking at itself as just dominant.
Yeah.
And then as we approach the next way, we'll see we're now looking at the spleen, Ajna, solar plex. But in this one stage, the Cro-Magnon itself, moving into the 7-centered way, who created the arrow? It wasn't Cro-Magnon. They weren't interested in killing everything. They were open. All rightness means there's a sereneness only with your environment, and you only can really live right now without much of a not self mind. I don't know what the not self mind would have been in the Neanderthal. I'm not going to presume there was 0, because again, Ajna was coming on board. It wasn't 0 Ajna. So where there's Ajna, there is not self potential. But it was weak. It wasn't there maybe in a lot of ways, mostly is what my guess is. And the rightness said communion with harmony with nature. So when they invented a bow, they didn't invent it to kill stuff, to kill people and stuff like that. The precision of many arrows so that you could have archers, that came with a 7-centered being. That's just sort of part of the difference between the two.
Now we have from 5 to 7 centers and becoming human. So this relates to the larynx mutation, which occurred about 85,000 years ago, where the larynx dropped down. And with this increased the cranial space, which led to neurological advances in the neocortex and visual cortex, which raised the forehead and helped with binocular vision. And this is when mental awareness started to overshadow existential, instinctual, instantaneous splenic awareness. So basically, Ajna is starting to come on board and overshadowing that splenic instinctive awareness. And this new vocal ability distinguished humans, which led to this development of language, communication, sharing intelligence, cooperation, specialization, and organization into villages.
Big time. And it started our long, long march into, 85,000 years of absolute savagery. Because the mind is still not in charge, but it thought it was. And so for their purposes, it was so locked in place that way, the mind was in charge. the arrows of consciousness and their cognition, they flipped, and then they all turned left. Strategic, active, focused, being observed, and not even being the observer. Neanderthal was the observer. Totally. They were the observer of their surroundings. These guys observed only what they wished to conquer. They were the ones in action, strategically, actively trying to figure out how to conquer everything. And an important word here that shows up when this happened, well, two important things. This larynx mutation, as it dropped and allowed us to articulate more, came at the same time with this. That's why the 11 and 12 in opposition are so important, because the ability of our third eye inside of us to have these magical ideas that can take shape, that took place with gate 12 that can articulate that. On our last episode, when we were talking, I forgot which, I think we were doing transits, and we were referring to the fact that, you think something and you got some facts, that's cool, we can talk about it, but ideas sure can take off like wildfire. You got an idea, you have a belief, you believe this idea, and then you can sort of describe, that can take off like wildfire. Belief is more potent. It's an emotional process too. It's on that side of the body graph. That's what happened. These guys believed their ajna was in charge, and gate 12, what does it say? It's a manifesting gate. I know I can, especially that now that I'm in the mood to conquer it. You know what I mean? And we got better swords than they do, and now we got more arrows. And those crazy Cro-Magnons gave us bows, but we made those bows way better. They shoot farther. We put flame on them. That's just all the stuff that mind can do, measures and figure stuff out. And it was all so much used to conquer things. In all fairness, we had to conquer a world. In all fairness, 85,000 years ago, as you're right, this forehead made room for this true movement of our crystals of consciousness to move more, and made us more intelligent in that respect. I can't be unfair to that time, right? They still had to fight off woolly mammoths and then survive, and they needed their wits, and they needed to be savage, or else they would be eaten. But the dominant species then did show up, and they never got done being that all throughout the seven-centered history. It's like, once a dominant, always dominant. You know what I mean? That's mine. I'll kill it all I want. And it's like they stayed that way till our nine-centered plight. And that leftness of strategic cooperation only. That's the word I wanted to come into. Yes, language. Yes, communication. We came up with so many words and so many ways to describe it and use our hands and articulate with our new larynx, all that good stuff. Villages made sense, right? We protect each other. But even the village back then was a cooperative effort. And notice the word sharing, intelligence, cooperation. Cooperation was part of the genetic imperative of the seven-centered being. Genetically built into us through those crystals of consciousness as part of what washed over our genes, and the information we do receive from the neutrino ocean was to cooperate. In order to advance consciousness, yeah, you're going to be savages. Maybe the universe wasn't its favorite part about advancement of consciousness. And he was like, I like those Neanderthal guys. They were nicer. But we got to go through this before we get to that, because we're in form. I don't know how it happened. All I know is as cooperation got sophisticated more and more, it became a bloodthirsty sport. Let's cooperate with the village and trick them into thinking we're nice, and we'll give them things. And as soon as we're done cooperating, because we get their stuff, we'll conquer them and take their stuff. And that's what we did. Our cooperation needed to grow. And that's what the nine-centered story brings us. A genetic imperative away from simple cooperation. Keep the cooperation, but now it's time to level up. So my only thing about cooperation is, if you just leave it at cooperation, it can be cold. Cooperation doesn't mean you love someone. You might have to cooperate with your enemy. You know what I mean? Just because, whatever. So we don't want that anymore. We want cooperation to stay, and we want to enter the nine-centered need for communion. And that's a genetic aspect inside of us that we're going to have to get used to. Do you feel like, on purpose, this is the universe advancing consciousness to experience itself? It feels like it, just in the story itself.
I mean, there's a program. Again, if there's a program, there's a programmer. If there's a creation, there's a creator. And if there's a creator and a creation, there's usually like an intention and a purpose.
Right.
Like, unless you're just like throwing paint against the wall, and even that, I'm intending to splatter. right?
Yeah.
So I would imagine all of it has meaning and purpose behind it to whatever level that we can maybe like scratch the surface or like peer behind the curtain. I have to imagine that there's meaning behind it because there's a creation, there's a program, there's a creation. So there's a programmer and a creator that loves us enough to create us and have us live in this beautiful world. So yeah.
Indeed. And that gave us our final marching orders in our nine-centered way. And I can't wait to go through that. I think our creator was waiting. It was like, maybe the creator was like, maybe God was like, oh, I'm going to take a little nap and it'll be done in the oven in 30 minutes. And that was those 85,000 years plus from Neanderthal, right? So the oven's the violent part. Yeah, it's heated up. Yeah, it's hot in there.
Well, heating causes mutation, right?
Something like that.
Now we're moving on to the seven-centered human, right? So this is after that, like 5 to 7, the larynx dropped. Now we're human, right? So the lifespan for the seven-centered human was a Saturnian life cycle, which is about 30 years. Saturn takes about 30 years to go around its full orbit. And at this time, Saturn was the last planet discovered because Saturn is the farthest planet that we can see with just our eyes and not a telescope. And with the seven-centered human, the genetic imperative was for reproducing and cooperation and finding communion through sexuality. And the focus was on revering the powers of the strategic mind and thinking, replacing fears for survival, and using that thinking to be able to control the environment, which would then allow for more survival, right? We're talking about like this ajna consciousness at this time. And the conditioning of this time is looking beyond yourself for authority to guide, rescue, support, and justify aggressive conquests.
Yeah, justify the aggressive conquest. You just circle that because, I mean, that's the thing that we're still in a hangover of today. So, yeah, this lifespan, it was shorter. They burned much faster. You know, I mean, they had to live their life a lot sooner. It was normal for, 13 years old and 14 years old, to get married. That wasn't uncommon for good reason. Back then, everything matured so much faster. But the thing is that conquering of the environment and the recognition of this ajna consciousness just couldn't have known what we would start to have awaken in us when the emotional awareness showed up. But they did have it foreshadowed. So there was aspects of it in there. And I can envision that the seven-centered being, especially as it approached 1781, let's say maybe 1,000 years in advance of 1781, really started having senses of something more than just killing everything to make everything, theirs or not. Or we're only happy if it's all ours. That's this sort of seven-centered way. Of course, it gave us incredible classical music. It gave us all kinds of great stuff. I'd like people to notice in music, look at 1781 as this changing ground where we started to come into that neo-new stuff that was like really way out there. And it gave us Chopin, and it gave us Brahms, and it gave us Mahler, and it gave us things that diverged from hundreds of years of Baroque and straight up classical, Mozart. And Beethoven was alive during that time. He was part of the switch, the overturning of that. So he bridged it for us quite well. But I've said enough about the seven-centered being. They had voices, they could articulate, and they had manifestation on their side because Gate 12 was a big part of their whole existence. So they could and they did kill everything in sight.
Well, kill it or control it. Killing would be like under that umbrella of controlling.
You're right. Totally control it. And if they couldn't, then maybe they'd kill it or send it away. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's just, it's easy to like look back at the past and like they were all barbarians and horrible and like they did these mean things and war and stuff. And it's like, okay, yes, that did happen, but there's also like a lot more that also happened in that time. So I think that'd be part of it as, again, that means of like survival, just like, I don't know, we it's so easy to like, we're living in the present and we're so like conscious and aware. And back then they were so, this, that, whatever. Whereas, understanding it from this place of the ajna being like highlighted for how we're going to make it through the world and how we're going to survive is like with the five-centered thing. It's okay. It's splenic. You're just surviving. You're just responding to things. You're just keeping going in a way. Whereas seven-centered, it's having that ajna center turn on you're going to get the good and bad of it. It's like any technology that comes. Like telephones are amazing and you can communicate across the world. And you also have phone scammers who are going to like rob little old ladies of their life savings. It's like any technology coming into form, you're going to have that good and bad. So as that ajna developed, hey, it's really great that we can control the environment and can control what's going on in order to survive, in order to develop better lives for ourselves and our friends and our families. Like that's a good thing. That it's not a bad thing to have the ajna working and lit up, because it's how we've been able to develop the civilized world. It's how we've been able to feed more people, and like global poverty keeps going down like more and more and more. Like the ajna is not a bad thing. It's just
at all.
Yeah, right. We're now at this place where the ajna has been developing and that technology is good and bad and wobbly and all of the things. And now getting to that place of understanding, hey, the ajna is really cool when it has its place. When you're using that ajna as like outer authority to share with other people, super great. Whereas if we're just getting lost in anxiety loops or trying to control things that we can't control and just freaking out and having panic attacks, not the best use of the ajna. So I think that's what we're in right now, is this like end of this like 7 into 9 centered thing. Yep. Where it's learning, hey, where is the correct place for the ajna and how do I use that appropriately?
Absolutely. Because we did more than just kill everything. We protected lots of things, mm-hmm. And we protected our families, and all that stuff is true. Absolutely.
Now we're going to talk about the 9-centered being, that's us, the Homo sapiens in Transitus. And so this is in the post-1781 that these Homo sapiens in Transitus as like we developed, right? Because in 1781 is when Uranus was discovered. It was the first planet discovered with a telescope. And the discovery of Uranus expanded our lifespan into 84 years. In this post-1781 time, we're finding communion through awareness. We're designed to guide through life decision by decision, right? So every decision we make is what's going to develop your life, and learning how to make correct decisions in that way. There's no longer a need for outer authority for direction. You don't need the kings and the pharaohs telling you what to do. We're learning to develop our inner authority so we can make that decision by decision to end up where we're supposed to be, to live the life we're supposed to live. And so human design bridges this evolutionary progression from the mental outer authority of the 7 centers to the revolutionarily aurically connected personal authority of the 9-centered way.
Yeah, that's a great way to put that, because it is revolutionary, and it couldn't come online until the solar plexus was ready to wake up, essentially. And the solar plexus was ready to wake up, and the discovery of Uranus signaled that. Now, that's a bit of mystery. I don't know how to fully describe, but it was at that time that this shift took place. It's an evolution. We evolved is the thing, and that's what people need to really see this like. In 1781, all the children started being born different. I don't know what to say about this, Moni. Maybe you can speak something about it, but and at this point now, every man, woman, and child is a 9-centered being. So what do we do with our 7-centered chakra system? We have to update those maps. We grew 2 new chakras, literally.
So it's like developing to the 9-centered and using that, but it's like, I think you can still look at a framing and the concept of like the 7 chakras. Sure. And you can look through that understanding. And even that, like, there's like thousands, right? Because chakras are like the nerve plexus in our bodies, and they're like all over our body, where you have these like little like nerve energy vortexes. So the 7 chakras, even the development of that, it's a very simplified, pretty version of the complexity of humanity, where it's like, okay, you have these 7 main ones, but there's lots more of them. So I think it's like anything, you could look at it, it's like another lens. It's like, cool, I can look at the lens of the 7, I can look at it through the 9,
And the human body underwent the type of a shift where suddenly we grew a little taller, a little more space inside of us to vibrate these energies inside of organs. We grew a little bit warmer, a little more energy going into the body. That means if we're warmer, there's more motorized energy going into the life itself, because just to keep the thing warmer, just a degree or so, not a lot. So lots of things. We started living a lot longer, and so that was part of it too, in order to give us time to mature it. So this whole 9-centered way, it brought on something that somewhere between the birth and Jesus, our solar plex center woke up. It came online to say, I'm knocking at the door, I'll be in soon. In 1781, as soon as humanity was awake enough to see the planet Uranus and have that become something that's now inside the ajna of the planet, the ajna signaled, okay, we got this longer life cycle coming. It's here. 1, 2, 3, evolve. And the solar plex center woke up inside of us, now useful and able to be seen. Every man, woman, and child from 1781, born in and after 1781, had an emotional solar plex. I think that was a big shock. I mean, think about it. Our Revolutionary War was back around that time, and the whole taking of this country and all the back and forth that even just America's gone through, never mind all the other countries that's tried to follow suit and stuff. So a lot was happening. It was a turbulent time. And now that it's awake, we nine-centered beings have a new genetic imperative to keep the cooperation. It's revolutionary. It's passed through our aura that we will cooperate. But this connection and coming away from the outer authority as being in charge, the ajna being in charge, into no, the whole thing that is the body's in charge, and it's now an emotional body. It wasn't quite an emotional body before. Emotions were available, so there was emotional times, and there was emotional aspects of the seven-centered way, but they were not emotional bodies, full on like ours are. Ours are awake emotional bodies. So if we can wake people up through this and through creating an army of readers one day, we will help wake up humanity to the rest of the aspects of what is this emotional life. It's now 3 separate, wicked, powerful awareness centers, driving cognition and the cognitive path, moving us in a direction, filtering 2 crystals of consciousness, a body that loves and has emotions. That primary emotion is its spirit, part of the master keynote, and then the personality consciousness that likes to speak it all out. Let me tell you all about it. And we need those 2 things. We need to see them come together, and then we need to finally see that we kept cooperation as part of a genetic imperative, again, fused in our genome. We are not going to be healthy until we learn to do the next step, commune. And it's here, communion. We are here to learn to commune with the other fully, even if we don't like them, but to have this innate respect for their right to exist, just like our Constitution says, for God's sakes. I mean, they spelled out some of these things quite accidentally, I'm guessing. I don't think they had a download, but maybe they did.
It was there.
It was there.
The data is there. It's like in
Yes.
the ether. The neutrinos are floating around. So it's like where is your radio tuned into? Where's the dial tuned into?
You know what? The mostly men, but they had wives. So trust me, the men and women that created our new way in America, the United States of America, our men and women, they were waking up to this emotional coming of, and these were all young kids. The average age was like 22 and 4 and 6. It wasn't, 58 and 62.
Yeah, the founding fathers were like young dudes.
Young dudes. The oldest one was like Washington was what, 35 or 40. Ben Franklin was probably 45, 50 at the time. He lived to be like 70 or something. Anyways, they were young. So young men, they saw it and they communed. They used communion to come up with a whole constitutional convention that gave away their power. They chose to give away their power. Those men could have said, no, out of here, England, and we're the new kings.
Yeah.
We're King of America. Do what we say, surf, and just recreated the whole feudal system, which, I mean, they're trying to do now, but it's like they could have just done, they didn't. Why? Because the new way of communion had fallen upon them, and they were still young and innocent enough to say, we're not doing it the old way, there's a new way. And they just trusted. They trusted that.
There's a specific thing that happens. It's like a developmental stage that happens in that like end of your teenage years into your early 20s, whereas there's this like huge urge of like, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to do something new. I'm going to make a name for myself. It's a developmental stage that happens. So the fact that like our founding fathers were in that kind of age makes sense. They weren't looking to, maybe if it was like some 50-year-old dudes, they're like, I'm going to be in charge and I'm going to be the king now. But maybe because they were these younger guys, it's like, no, like, I don't want to be under a king. Let's not put any Americans under a king and come up with something new and different, because that's the data that was in the ether.
Yeah, and they had a Declaration of Independence to basically bring into life. That's what they did, to bring that declaration into life. That was the whole idea. That's why they wrote it. But anyway, so it's a beautiful thing, and it speaks to communion, and it speaks to the need to literally get along with our fellow man, such that we should be able to plunk ourselves down anywhere. And suddenly, yeah, let's get to work. I'll help with this, and you'll help with that. I can't speak your language. You'll point. Okay, I don't. You're not going to shoot me and take my stuff. No. Okay, good. I'll go do the thing. You got phone, you'll help me get home. Oh, thanks, appreciate that. We should be able to plop in the middle of the Amazon and have something like that happen. That's communion. We haven't gotten there yet in our consciousness. Love of the vessel empowers and generates the direction that two is locked into as a magnetic monopole, driving us towards all of this, from our collective past through our beautiful now into our collective future, all with the tribe in mind, and reverent of the individual's uniqueness. Again, just like our founding documents, they said every dude gets to be life, liberty, and the pursuits of their choosing uniquely. Can't interrupt that. So they gave us that. That speaks to communion. So we leveled up. Cooperation's cool. Communion is king.
Nine centered beings, 2027 and beyond. So the global cycle shift that's going to be happening in just a couple short years, not even, it's like a year and a half at this point. And we're going to be transitioning from the cross of planning into the cross of the sleeping phoenix. So we shifted into the cross of planning in 1615, and then we're going to be shifting into the sleeping phoenix in 2027. And the collective structures are evolving from tribal bonds to individual empowerment, with a focus on self-sufficiency, inner authority, and unique expression. And nine-centered beings fully embody differentiated awareness, the integration of splenic, ajna, and solar plexus consciousness, creating emotional clarity and intuitive knowing to guide decision making. And purpose shifts to authentic individuality over collective survival.
But it will include and still imbue collective survival, because it's all there. I mean, we spent 450 years learning it. You know what I mean? Repeat, wax on. We waxed on and waxed off and painted up and painted down for 450 years. So we sort of got that. And luckily, those beautiful oppositions, I like that we're moving from one opposition into another, right? 37, 40, So that's still there. It's there in the world, constantly driving that energy oracally into us. So I'm not too worried that we suddenly leave tribe behind, because we
No,
love
it's just,
tribe.
it's evolving. It's just
Yeah,
evolving into a different kind of thing. And yeah, into that individual self-sufficiency. And that doesn't mean you're not going to still care about your family and your tribe and your people, but there's a new focus. It's like, I feel like it's
there's a
like changing
new thing.
grades.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
like when you're first like learning, multiplication and division, and then you're going to like go up to learn algebra, and it doesn't mean that you're not using multiplication and division. It
Right,
just,
right.
it's incorporating into something else with a new focus to learn a deeper lesson, a newer lesson.
Absolutely. Eighth grade into high school, I remember it was a little bit scary, a little scary. But yeah, that kind of movement, this shifts to this authentic individuality. That's what we were supposed to do. How long have I been saying everything in the body graph serves the individual definition? It's all there to serve this uniqueness. And here we are sort of demonstrating that. It's here to serve the spirit moving in a direction towards communion, and to be tribally secure in doing all of that. So there's a reason we didn't come off of something that wasn't tribe. We didn't come off of ajna. We didn't come off of 4323 into this. We came off of tribal into this. So this beautiful nine-centered way that we're moving into, that we're in now, and Transitus, giving life to our new cross that's sort of coming along, to me is this essence of, now we finally get to be ourselves. Let's not mess it up by a not self world, losing track of that and making it be ugly again. Because the old seven-centered way brought us a lot of beauty and art. It did bring lots of things. It brought a civilization. It did tame a otherwise violent world. It tamed it for us. It did. It totally laid out a red carpet for us, frankly. So we thank them very
Yeah.
much for that.
Peace through strength.
Peace through strength. It gave us that too. Yeah, we thank them for all that. But at the same time, they were still a murderous lot. Just period. They killed everything, if they couldn't have it or control it.
mean, not everything. They killed some things.
You're right. Like,
Like
they
again, it's
killed
just, if
a
they
lot of
killed
death.
everything, then like everyone would be gone. But like, yeah, Genghis Khan was, in the mix, but so was, loving, caring families. So it's just like, yes, there's control and there's killing, but it wasn't just, I'm
Yeah.
imagining like the scene from like Monty Python and the Holy Grail where Lancelot just comes and just starts like killing
Everything, and the whole
party.
and everyone's dead. You killed the bridesmaids.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, yes, that was part of it, but there's also more than that. Like you could,
So, so the reason I'm bringing that up is because as we move now into this individual way, our true selves don't want to do any of that. But the current not self condition of the planet, to the degree that it is, I don't know where it is right now, Moni. I can only guess. I'm a second line. I'm a hermit. I can't tell until I take a real pulse of it somehow, or someone does some measurements for me that I don't have the capacity to do. But we're in a seven-centered hangover. That's why I have to bring up the treachery of the old way. There was a treachery sitting in it.
Mhm.
The double cross was easy, in other words, in the old way. It really was, even if it meant, whatever. So just from 1781 till now is not a lot of time, evolutionarily speaking. It is not unreasonable to realize, on this long side, that's what, maybe 8 or 10 generations.
Yeah, it's like
If
250
we
years.
live them all out, 8 or 10 is probably a lot, really. If I count back 10, I'm going to get back easily at the time or before the
Yeah.
revolution.
Yeah, if you
So,
put a generation at like 25 years, more or less. Yeah.
and so now think about it. That's not a lot of time, evolutionarily speaking. So we're still consumed in an old hangover of that way, thinking we're supposed to always be strategic, not honoring our rightness, thinking we're always supposed to be the manifestor dominated plane rather than the combination of generator projector dominated plane. This shift brought us the projector, another new thing besides our height, our temperature, and our longevity, that came along. By the way, our appetite got more diverse as well. That's another thing to recognize. Bringing that all along, it's time to shake off that old hangover. It's time to shake it off. Human design is the ultimate plop, plop, Alka-Seltzer, fizz, fizz, couple of tablets in the morning. By the way, I tried Alka-Seltzer. It didn't super work for me when I was younger, but they said it did. So, but it's that time to take the Alka-Seltzer or do, whatever, do whatever it takes. It's time to wake up. We get into our strategy and authority. We enter into this human design experiment to see our unique selves and de-burden us from the stuff that we're not. And we see it in a human design body graph so clearly. You got a few channels, right? On average, everyone's got a channel or two or three. Some people have 4 or 5. Doesn't matter. You got very few channels. You got 18 or 20 gates on or about, plus or minus. That's it. That's it. You're not all of the other things that aren't defined in your body graph. You're not them. And it's time to see how much you want to shed them. When I was 4 and 5, I can look back and I can look at my body graph and I can see the gates I don't have and the ways in which I bet you I wasn't trying to be them, not being fully conditioned yet. But I bet you slowly I could see, oh my God, I really was trying to be a little bit of it. And by 4.5, I was definitely trying to be a little bit of this one. And by 8, I bet you I could see I was trying to be like, 20 of the things that I don't have. And by the time we're full on adults, we're lost in it. Yeah. So get unlost. Come enter your experiment and recognize the human design system is how our genome has us operating. It's the owner's manual. It's the blueprint. You might want to know it. The on button, the off button, how to restart, a couple important functions maybe. Come to know your design and you will come to know who you are and who you're not, for real, in a very peaceful way.
The end of external conditioning, inner strategy and authority prevail. This comes with the dissolution of homogenized authority structures. Humanity embraces auric interconnectivity without conformity and harmonic resonance with cosmic cycles, not control. The global awakening to personal communities of aligned individuals foster mutual empowerment, and human design is used as a tool for navigating the new paradigm.
I don't have anything to add to that. It's perfect.
Yay.
I mean, it's perfect. All I can do is blah, 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 and say more of what really is. I said it all in the last one. You enter your experiment, we get all of this stuff, and we recognize how dear is our unique personal expression to us. I love you, Moni, but I love me more. We all get to say that, right? And it's supposed to say that. And Now we get to finally see it. I can't think of a single soul when I talk to and say, don't you want your unique expression to shine? Almost everyone, even when they're afraid to say yes to that, they still have something in them that wants to say it. It's there.
Well, and it's neat too, because with human design, it gives you a way to actually access that. Because I feel like there's such this desire and this like cultural thing of like authenticity and be you and all that. But a lot of people don't even know what that means. And then they end up chasing somebody's idea of what like unique, individual, authentic expression means. And it can become like this buzzwordy thing of just like dye your hair a funny color or get some weird
Right.
piercings or something, you know, like, and
Do
it can
certain things.
do
It always
certain
comes
things.
with a list, a checklist. It's always comes
Exactly.
with a
Like do
checklist.
this thing to be part of this little clique or something like that. And I really love that with human design, it's not this, hey, do this thing. It's, hey, if you want to play with this experiment, here are some patterns you can notice and you could explore and see where you end up. And in that process, then you can actually kind of discover who you are. And that's what I love about human design is that it is this experiment. I don't want to tell anyone, go do this, go do that. All I can say is, hey, these are some neat patterns. Play with this if you want. Play with that if you want. And this spirit of play and exploration that I find it's so necessary because no one wants another authority figure beating them, you know, like down their throat, you know, like nobody wants another bully telling you what to do. And so what's really cool is human design. It's about witnessing that experiment yourself and playing with it yourself and discovering it on your own. And that makes it so much more deeper. And that's how you can actually find that real authenticity and not this bought, sold, viral internet aspect of like authenticity that's become such a buzzword. It can almost stop having meaning.
Yeah, the whole follow me. Don't seven-centered compel yourself out of a fear to follow any of this stuff per se. Nine-centered, allow your stuff to give yourself back yourself. That self that you had when you were 3, 4, 5, and 6 years old is when it's most prominent. And the fact that you can see for yourself. Don't take our word for it. You know, the seven-centered way would be like, you have to believe me right now. And the nine-centered way is don't take our word for it. See for yourself. You'll see how unique you are. I couldn't even possibly describe how unique you are. You have to see that. I can only get you to the aspects that keep clouding your view of what that really is. That's what that's what human design gets for people. And that's what, think of what the amount of love we have to pour out, Moni, to make all these broadcasts and to keep doing this. You know, that's for you, right? That's for everyone who would be empowered and allow themselves to self-empower and view for themselves. Don't you love it when you show your sister or someone or this or that when they first saw it and you're like, oh my God, they're seeing it. It's magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's like another big aspect of this 7 to 9 centered and this 9 centered way thing where things are really, it's almost like you can see it more and more. Things have to come from a place of being energetically correct or they're not working. Like in the past, maybe you can just pay somebody and they'll do this thing. Whereas now it's got to come from, hey, you're really into doing this because that's the only way something's going to happen. And when people are super into something, then they could just build something that's amazing. When a generator is like sacral response, yes. And it's this like never ending flow of energy to build something cool to share with the world. Like, wow, you couldn't pay somebody to do that. You know what I mean? When my will is lit up to make something, because that's my authority and that's my motor, get out of my way because I just want to make something cool. That again, you couldn't pay somebody to do that if they weren't into it. And I've been really seeing this more and more and more is for an individual, for groups and companies, whatever, it has to come from this place of being energetically correct, or it's more and more it's not working and it's starting to collapse. And in that way where
people see it.
Oh yeah, they might not understand it. Like if you don't have that human design background, you can just see that stuff is kind of falling apart. And wow, these people who are really into it are building something cool. So they might not have those like puzzle pieces to put it all together. But in that way where like Ra talked about, you know, human design is for a time when people don't know what's true or what's not.
Right.
And in the years past, I was like, okay, wow, that's kind of interesting. And I couldn't really quite comprehend it. And then now with the levels of like AI and computer generated anything, who knows, people, they could just make stuff up and it sounds really good and it can sound really legit, and you don't know if it's true or not. And you can't trust any authority because there's not just one. It's robots and companies and whatever. And more I can understand what Ra was alluding to and expressing towards, of we won't know it's true or not, and the only thing that we can do is learn our own inner authority, and decision by decision have that lead us into what is correct for us, into our survival, into everything that means we're gonna be okay and living the life that we're supposed to. And more I'm really recognizing the importance of living correctly and following your strategy and authority, because the people who aren't, unless they stumble upon it on their own, I see a lot more people getting lost and things not working out. And I'm concerned. My heart goes out to everyone.
Yeah, that's why the whole army of readers says, I want to change the world, Moni. It's still there. That little 21-year-old that still wanted to at the time. Of course, then I wanted to be a rock star, but whatever, that would have changed the world somehow. But I still want to. It burns. I always have wanted to. And there's something coming. It's something big. I can't wait to see what's next. I just hope enough people do wake up so that, we're coming into a turbulent time. We're sort of already in it. That's it. There's your whole, folks. There's everything you need to know so far, minus all the questions I hope you have.
Yeah.
So start answering them.
Yeah, and ultimately it just goes back to that simple, follow your strategy and authority. You can always come to, but it's it is true, because nobody can tell you what's going to be correct for you. All you can do is, clean up your conditioning and learn how to make correct decisions as yourself, and then trust that, hey, if I'm making correct decisions as myself, then I'm going to lead the life that I'm supposed to lead, and everything's going to work out okay. Because otherwise it's just that ajna spinning wheels, panic, anxiety mess of a thing. And
danger. Yep.
Yeah, and you're just going to go nuts. There's so much information, we cannot process it. We literally cannot process the amount of information. And then now it's even with AI, more and more of what I'm seeing is not just AI creating something, but then using AI to summarize something. We're I don't want to read these 20 pages you just spit out for me. You need to summarize that even more. So it's our brains are not made to handle that. So let's stop trying to make our brains handle all this mental anxiety stuff that it's not there for.
Right. I agree. It's that thing that we ultimately get to see for ourselves as we move into this unique way under the cross of the sleeping phoenix. The spirit will come alive within the unions we make personally. That'll create a certain intimacy or not. It's still tribal in nature, luckily, with that 59 sitting there. It generates part of that tribal wave, protective wave. But it's so unique, and it's meant to be so unique, and it's got 3420 in it, so it's going to be busy. And so we're all going to be busy, unique things that if the spirit goes too low, no good. So let's realize that spirit is meant to be abundant. It's just we're meant for abundance. I don't know how else to say it. Grow a few things and then try to make it stop growing. We're meant to have fruit growing everywhere and just a literal abundance. Try to make it, you can't even stamp it out like weeds. You got to come in with killer and you got to kill it and dig it. It's hard to stop the abundance once you have an abundance mindset. And abundance is strictly a matter of spirit. And that's what we're coming into, and it's a unique way. So.
And especially with the sleeping phoenix, my boyfriend's a sleeping phoenix, so it's been really fun to help him in his deconditioning and see him continue to flower in a way as this little sleeping phoenix busybody, where when he's in alignment, he really brings people back to life, right? That sleeping phoenix idea at the end of Harry Potter 2 with the phoenix. Harry goes into Dumbledore's office and the phoenix is Fox is looking all old and crusty and stuff, and then he bursts into flames.
Right.
And then Harry Potter's oh no, he's gonna think I did it. And then Dumbledore comes, he's oh, it's a shame you have to see him on a burn day, right? Because he was looking really scraggly. And I feel that's kind of where we're in right now, where it's the phoenix is looking kind of scraggly and towards the end of that, but it's because it's about to burst into flames and come back to life and breathe this new life into the world. And I see it with my boyfriend. I see it with, you know, he's a builder, artist, contractor extraordinaire. So he literally will build things for people. He'll help people rebuild their homes, and performance art and
Communion,
stages and parties,
communion.
and even like,
Yes.
and he's a DJ, and his music will literally bring people back to life. Like, it is wild when he is in tune, and seeing that sleeping phoenix come back to life. So I know 2027 has all this like ooky spooky scary, like what's going to happen, end of an era kind of thing, and it's like, yes, and
Yes.
also it's
Yes.
gonna bring the life back into us. It's gonna breathe that life in. It's gonna bring that spark and that fire and that heartbeat and that rhythm. Like, there's something there, and it's gonna be big and crazy and amazing, but don't be freaked out about it. It's gonna be good.
The strategy and authority, like you said, is there for a time when we can't tell what's true and we only have ourselves to rely on. You know what I mean? Get in your experiment, get it rolling now, because 2027 is right around the corner. This shift is, we're going to feel it. It's going to move things. And if you don't know it's there, it might be scary. If you know it's there, at least it's like, cool, let's start working with it. I think the movement is amazing, and live out your nine-centered existence, people. We're here to commune and empower and support and be sensitive and to help the other find the spirit and to self-empower.
Beautiful. Thank you, Danny. Thank you to everyone who is watching and liking and subscribing and commenting. I love it. It really helps us out, and it really makes me really happy. We've gotten some like super nice comments lately that I've just been like melting and blushing over. So thank you guys for that. And
Yes, thank you, everyone.
and we will have some more human design stuff for you. So see you then.
See you then, everyone. Much love. Come back soon.